So we had a little bit of thunderstorm activity early this morning, came through about 6 or 7 in the morning here, and I tried to go out and get some time lapse and protect the camera from rain, and I guess it worked out okay, but we've cleared out. Dry air has filtered southward through our part of Texas, and right now at this time, there's a live shot, so we've cleared out pretty well. So let's take a look at weather across the country this evening. This is just kind of a quick overview of what SPC has. When we're talking about May, this is severe weather season, so this is a good place to start. And we can see that we've got only a slight risk for parts of Ohio and Kentucky here, and another little area south of Corpus Christi out to Laredo. So we're not looking at any widespread severe weather. We've got a couple of watches, though, severe watches for those same areas. And we did have a couple tornadoes earlier up in Indiana. And let me see if I can bring that up real quick. There's that right there. So northwestern Indiana, I guess that would be north of Danville, north of... we'll just say northwest of Indianapolis. That's about as good as my geography gets. Okay, so here we can see the ridging coming in from the north. High pressure up in Canada, or Kansas, pushing that cool air southward. So the leading edge of the cold front, roughly from about Little Rock down to Lufkin, where we do have a few thunderstorms. And you can see the moisture, the tropical air down here. It's got a little bit of a easterly trajectory, and some of it's making it up to the boundary right here, and that's helping to produce some of the thunderstorms we have there. The rest of it is going out towards the Kingsville, Corpus Christi, Laredo area, and that's about all we got. And I do know we have a couple of chasers that are the ones that I know of. They're taking a break today and hoping for something on Monday. Further up in the Midwest, let me see if I can shift this up to the northeasterly areas up in Indiana, and there you can see a couple of discrete cells, and that's right here along the warm front stretching from about Iowa out to Ohio like that. And then south of that we've got an MCS. We don't have any widespread severe weather in that. A lot of it is on the weak side. We'll go to the GR level 2, and maybe I can bring some of that up. This is the Indianapolis radar here. So we've got this one line coming up on Cincinnati here, and almost all the way down to Lexington. Couple of good cells on that, but we take a quick look at the storm relative velocity, and a lot of the indications in here are kind of weak. This one area of the cell right here west of Cincinnati showing a little bit of a strong push of outflow, or I should say air moving away from the radar there at Indianapolis. So that could be associated with a little bit of downburst activity. Let's go back and check out the reflectivity. Yeah, so maybe a slight risk of a little bit of wind in that part of the city, but overall looking pretty good for the rest of Indiana, except for right up here where we start picking up the discrete line, and right here west of Kokomo we've got a tornado warning. Spotter reported a funnel cloud there 7 miles west of Kokomo. So let me take a quick look at the storm relative velocity, and we want to correct that for storm motion. And we've got what looks like a lot of range folding in here. So let me poke around and see if I can pull up some better frames. Yeah, right in here you can kind of see what looks like a little bit of shear. Nothing too strong. That's going to be about 40 or 50 knots of shear right there. And then we can try going back to some older frames. Yeah, on this frame right here, we mostly just see a meso. Gets a little bit stronger up in the upper levels, but I think that's kind of the area we're looking at right there. That looks to be kind of on the backside of the storm. No, that's about right. So, yeah, the updraft area right here. And I sometimes wonder if there's any chasers all the way up here. I know most of those are on the Great Plains, but if you were on this road right here, looks like State Route 22, you'd probably have a front row seat to the storm here, and it looks like maybe possibly a supercell, maybe a small supercell there. And then elsewhere, I don't see any big problems with any of these other thunderstorms at this time. Let's take a look at the upper level charts here, and we'll start with the 250. This is up at 34,000 feet, showing a deep trough over the high plains right here. And we can see the polar front jet running from about Lubbock and Amarillo out to Wichita, and then straight north up to Minnesota. And this is this morning, about 12 hours ago. We don't have the current plots yet. But at that time, this morning, it looked like Indiana was a little bit on the outside of the stronger flow loft. And maybe during the afternoon, we've started picking up maybe some of this 70 or 80 knot flow to help augment those storms. Further south, we've got weaker flow. And that's a big reason why we don't have much widespread severe weather south of the Ohio River. You're just not going to get much with 20 knot flow up at 300 millibars. So all the way down to the subtropical jet, we do pick up some 65 knot flow there, and that's enough to help the storms that we have down in the Corpus Christi, Laredo area. Okay, I'm just taking a quick look at the audio levels. Okay, go down to 500 millibars this morning. We see one little spot of 60 knot flow right there at Springfield. That looks like the Jet Max kind of rotating around the base of the trough right there, and probably heading up towards Wisconsin at about the current time right now. 700 millibars. Let's see. We have lost most of the cap. Cap temperatures, we're looking for maybe 7 to 11 degrees Celsius, and we see temperatures a lot cooler. This is more on the order of 5 to 4 degrees Celsius. We do see a few 10s down in Texas, so if I do a quick isotherm analysis, there's 10 right there, there's 12, there's 14, and then 8. Looks like that's going to run something like that right there. So a lot of your better capping is going to be south of Interstate 10. And likely what this means is that the convection that we had earlier this afternoon, we probably waited till about 3 or 4 o'clock before we had the truly surface-based storms take root down in South Texas. I should take a look at the Severe Studios site and see if there's anybody chasing down there. Severe Studios, that's one good place where you can check out chaser video. And of course, I'm not going to bring up the video because of the copyright issues, but shouldn't have any problems bringing up the chaser map. So let's see, is this current? This shows a little clustering of chasers in northern Louisiana. Assuming this is current, I don't see any chasers up in Indiana. Got a few chasers up in Nebraska. Let me check that out and just make sure that that is current data. I'm going to flick back to the SPC charts. And let's see. I don't see anything up there in that part of the country, so we may be looking at maybe just a splash screen. Yeah, okay. So let me go back and let me see if I can pull up that Severe Studios thing again and see if I can pull up a current map. I'll just click on that real quick. We'll give that another go. Live Storm Chaser map. Okay. Yeah, this looks better. No chasers in Nebraska. Okay, so yeah, we do have a few of them down in the Corpus Christi area. And we'll just take a quick look and see who's streaming. Bill and Anna Stromberg out there. And Michael Koch, Peter Good. Got somebody all the way down in Laredo, probably watching those Mexican storms across the border. Looks like most of these chasers here may be at home or on the road somewhere. And looks like, yeah, we do have a few chasers up in Indiana. So what do you know? So these guys are probably up on the Kokomo storm. Probably not this guy, but this guy here. Adam Grimes. And Matt Campbell. So a little bit of video from there. Anyway, I do have some GO 16 data. Let me bring that up real quick. This shows you the overshooting tops there in northern Indiana. So there's the storms around the Kokomo area showing up pretty well there. But you can see that there's a lot of anvil covering this area. This is old debris that has come up from the south during the day. So that's cut down the surface heating a little bit and affected the Cape. But of course we were still able to squeak a few storms out of there. Down in southeast Texas, towers look a little bit more impressive. This is an animation covering about 1 or 2 hours. And that's spectacular there. That's a 5-minute interval GO 16 imagery. Very cool there. And you can even pick out a little bit of the inflow coming up into these cells right there. But even down there, we do have a problem with anvils spreading in from the southwest there. Okay, we'll head to the thickness and isobars. We can see we've got a cold air mass over the northern plains that's keeping things kind of shut down in that area. And then down to the south, we're going to find the cold front all the way down in Texas like that. Warm front through West Virginia, into Ohio, and over to Indiana. So we've probably got the maybe a little bit of a low-level jet coming up the Mississippi River up to Indiana and Illinois, and that's probably helping to feed some of those storms there in Indiana. I guess for a sounding this evening, we'll take a look at Wilmington. That's about as good as we'll get for a sounding there. This is at 12Z, so this is earlier today. Looks like a conditionally unstable air mass. Lapse rate not all that great. Let's try Nashville. And there we pick up a little bit more cold air aloft, and that gets us a little bit of mid-level instability right there, and some decent low-level instability from about the surface up to 10,000. And let's see, we don't have anything further west until we get to Lincoln. And I'll just bring that up real quick, and I see some steep lapse rates from the surface, or just above the surface, above this frontal inversion, up to 700 millibars. And then down below that, that's the frontal inversion. You can see the cold air right down there below that. Okay, we'll check out the dynamics. And this is going to be a plot for the current time. You can see the channeling of the polar front jet right there from northern Oklahoma up to the Davenport and La Crosse area. So Indiana just being grazed a little bit by this stronger flow to the west. And then we see the weaker flow south of the Ohio River. And that's helping to keep the storm severity reduced in that area a little bit. And then down in South Texas, the subtropical jet helping with that. And that's well above 500 millibars. That's way up at 250 to 200 millibars there. So the subtropical jet would be flowing like that right there. Okay, what's up next here? I guess we'll move to the high-resolution rapid refresh model for the forecast. And before I go much further, let me take a look at the chat here and see who we have checking in here. We've got Ryan, and says cooler weather today for South Florida. So a breezy evening there, and Kevin McKinney. We got fun with tech, and Ron Chalfant there in Southern California. Enjoyed the special broadcast last night. We did have a Dynamics Part 2 installment, so check that out if you get a chance there. Burrell H checking in. Ryan says Western Indiana was hit pretty good today east of Chicago on the state line. Sounds like that's right around Gary, Indiana. Ancient Astronaut, 77 degrees and 76% humidity. Canyon Lake, Texas. Sue M. there in Indiana. Robert Terrell talking about a rather boring spring so far, and I definitely agree with that. This has been a tough chase season. But we still have June to go, and I have a feeling that maybe during the first and second week of June, I think there's a good chance we'll really pull in some very good action there. Of course, hopefully that stays out on the wheat fields there. We don't need that in the cities. Robert says we've had totally awesome to totally terrifying here in Lubbock. Ancient Astronaut says zoomradar.com. Juggalo for Life checking in here. Had some wicked looking squall line hit Manchester, Tennessee. Now it's just a lot of rain. Mike Westwick says howdy y'all. Juggalo says looks unstable from first person there, point of view in Tennessee. Mike says sunny and cool, 59 there at Denver. And Juggalo says Indiana has had one tornado reported and a few tornado warnings for about 1 to 2 hours now. So let's see what the trend of these storms are going to be over the next few hours. So the model pretty well picks up the northern complex right there, northwest of Indianapolis. And then we pick up the more elevated and less disorganized stuff further to the south. And I think we've got a little bit of an error here. Actually, let me bring this up to 01Z. No, that's probably pretty close there. We did see a squall line coming up on Cincinnati there, and that's about right in the ballpark. Okay, so the next few hours, we're going to see those probably progress to the east-northeast. And then as we lose surface heating, towards midnight, we see those become elevated and weaken as they move up into northern Ohio and southern Michigan. The stuff down in Tennessee and Alabama stays on the weak side. That'll be moving into the Atlanta area, probably about midnight, down to Columbus, Georgia, also about midnight. And we should see a slow weakening trend with most of that gone around dawn. Then we bring in the westerly winds, the cold front bringing in cooler and drier air that'll come up on Indiana by dawn and into western Tennessee and northern Mississippi about then. Now down in Texas, I did see One thing that was a little bit interesting on this high-resolution rapid refresh, the development of some high-based convection in the central part of the state overnight. So you see earlier we've got the surface-based convection here and here, and then after dark we see something coming together in the hill country around Fredericksburg to Llano to San Saba. And that looks like it gets going about 11 to 12. Organizes a little bit and moves into the Waco Temple area and then out to Tyler and maybe South Dallas towards dawn. Now, what could be causing that? Usually I'm thinking just above the radiational inversion, maybe up at 925, 850. That might tell me that there's a little bit of acceleration of the flow, maybe bringing up some moisture. So we see this band here of 60-degree dew points. This is around 9 o'clock this evening, and we see that kind of take root right along the frontal boundary right here. And I guess we get just enough upper-level lift, maybe some augmentation with a subtropical jet, maybe to get some elevated cells going in this area. But tropical air flowing north on the Gulf Coast right there, Canadian air coming south. So this area, especially with it being May, can't totally rule that out for nocturnal thunderstorm activity. So I think we can go ahead into the forecast since it's a fairly quiet night, except for Indiana, of course. Okay, let's see. Let me get this centered. And there you can really see the synoptic scale details. There's the synoptic scale low, almost an occlusion over northern Iowa. The cold front is actually a little bit further south in this area right here. The warm front across northern Illinois, they're near Champaign out to, looks like maybe around Columbus. And then north of that, we've got the occlusion kind of pulling north into the northern Iowa area. So what's going to happen overnight? Let's roll that forward. GFS agrees that the storms will be on the decline overnight. It's going for maybe a little bit of strengthening, maybe around Atlanta overnight. So that's probably bad news if you have connecting flights later tonight in Atlanta. You can see the cold front continuing to advance. East of the Mississippi right here, the warm front pulls up into southern Michigan and Lake Ontario, and then we see even more of an occlusion up across Wisconsin and Minnesota right here. So this is about dawn. So let's run this up to Sunday evening. So for our forecast tomorrow night, we can see we've mostly got a cold front way up here in Ohio and Kentucky. Warm front up there near Lake Ontario, and then the occlusion all the way up to Lake Superior right there. And on the south side of that, cool, dry air flowing in, so it should be a beautiful day there in Chicago, Indianapolis, and St. Louis. Further to the south, we've got that little pesky quasi-stationary front. Looks like it drifts a little bit further south during the day to the Gulf Coast, so maybe some storms in the Houston area and all the way down to the Del Rio area right there. But looks like a pretty nice day for Dallas too. But one thing that you can see here, see this troughing in northeastern New Mexico. That's a little bit of damming of the shallower cold air against the higher terrain. So we may have a chance of a little bit of upslope thunderstorm activity around Clayton. If I had to chase somewhere, I might consider taking a risk around Trinidad. And then let's see, let's go up to the start of the work week on Monday. Stationary front hanging around in Texas, and that's continuing to produce a few cells down in that area. And look at this. You can see the effect of the upslope flow there in Lubbock and Amarillo. Now, I'm not too sure that these are going to be surface-based, because we got to keep in mind that the surface boundary is well down here. And when you have dry air flowing in like this, you get wet bulbing as we get some of the precip developing, and that generates cold pools. So there's a chance that some of this convection here could be slightly elevated. But in any case, looks like there is some potential there for Monday. Coming up for Tuesday, looks like another shot of cold air moving south. You see the thickness troughing right here. That's cold air on its way south. And look at that thickness gradient here in Texas. That's a pretty good shot of cool, mild air. So I'm thinking maybe highs in the 60s or low 70s, especially in East Texas there. And that's going to help reinforce the front and shove that all the way south to the lower Rio Grande Valley. Looks like that's overcoming some of the damming there in northeastern New Mexico, and looks like we end up with the cold front maybe pushing eastward a little bit, or westward a little bit towards Albuquerque and Santa Fe. So that may clear out some of the convection in that area. Then for Wednesday, ridging covering the plains. You see all that? That's a big ridge. We've got what looks like an occluded system in the Ohio River area, or I'm sorry, the state of Ohio. I think the main front is going to be down in this area right here, but it looks like just enough low-level instability or low-level moisture to produce some storms there in Ohio, but those will probably be cold core type storms. We have a new system coming into the Pacific Northwest. See that gradient right there? That's a new system coming in. Then for Thursday afternoon, we see things become a little bit unsettled there in Wyoming and Salt Lake City, Nevada. So we'll keep an eye on this area here. We see a lee side trough take effect right there in southeastern Colorado. So the Gulf starts opening up right there. We start bringing up moisture. This is still pretty early, so not enough moisture for any convection on Thursday, I think. But probably by Friday, we'll be in that ballpark. Here's Friday, bringing up the moisture. Probably a bit of a dry line in this area here. So we'll be on guard there for maybe Kansas, western Oklahoma, and maybe even further north, depending on how far north that moisture makes it. Looks like still some frontogenesis out in the Rockies and Great Basin region. Then by Saturday, looks like continued a little bit of frontogenesis in this area here, starting to form kind of a front in this region right here. Texas Panhandle out to Colorado may get some upslope storms here. Around Pueblo out to Eads and Kit Carson. And then going into Sunday, the middle of the Memorial Day weekend, warm front in the Red River region, bit of a cold front right there in the I-40 area of New Mexico and Arizona. And you can see the Gulf is definitely open. We've got a dry line across West Texas like that. So I think we're looking at a chance for thunderstorms on the Caprock near Amarillo and Lubbock. So I think we are going to have chase opportunities on Memorial Day weekend. Then going into Monday, which I think is Memorial Day, stationary front along the Red River into the Lubbock area. That's definitely going to mean chasing, especially with the Gulf open like this. So we are just priming this area with moisture, and we've got a good shot of some chasing probably in the Lubbock area along that warm front there. Then going to Tuesday, some chasers probably heading back to work, but we still will have that front stationary through Oklahoma into Texas. Depending on how much upper level flow we have, we may see some severe weather that day. And then just skipping ahead through the rest of the week. Looks like we see that boundary kind of weaken a little bit, and looks like most of the moisture heading to West Texas like that. So maybe Midland for middle of the week. Then for Friday the 2nd, the Gulf is not very active here, not much of a pressure gradient. So most of the opportunities here, I think, are going to be out in the mountains, maybe a little bit of residual moisture. Remember, we have very intense heating this time of year. And let's see, we head up to the 3rd and 4th. Gulf is not really opening up there. But looks like we got a warm front up in Nebraska, Iowa, maybe a little bit of evapotranspiration taking effect here. That may help get a few storms going well up in the northern plains then. And then we get to the end of the run right there. Okay, let's see. Before I close things up, we'll take one last look at the satellite. And I want to point this on South Texas and check out the storms in that area. This is on the tail end of that front there, south of San Antonio. And what we see here, everything looks fairly multicellular. And let me see if I can pause that here real quick. You can see that we've got maybe 3 main clusters of very strong storms right there at those 3 points. But if we run this forward, the sun sinks and we get a little bit more shadowing taking place. And we can see that this cell looks fairly strong. This cell here is fairly strong. This one not so much. And then we run this forward a little bit more, and we're not really seeing any shadowing at all. So I think we're not looking at much in the way of strong thunderstorm activity. Just maybe that cell, and that's probably about it there. And so as a bonus, I'm going to go ahead and just run GR level 2. Looks like the Kokomo storm has weakened a little bit. They've taken the tornado warning down. We'll run that back real quick. I think that's what we had earlier when we started the webcast. You can see that one cell there, and then we roll that forward, and then we get that whole area kind of lined out like this. So that's going to mean a whole lot of cell competition, but this is one cell you would have to watch right here. That's going to merge with a line, and we may see, possibly in this area, a little bit of a increase in storm severity. So that would be east of Kokomo. That would just be something I would probably watch for there. So I'm going to head down to, let's see, what do we want to look at? Storm has pushed through the Cincinnati area, clearing that area. We don't have any warnings out for that. And I'm going to go down to South Texas. And for that, we're going to have to probably pull up the Corpus Christi radar. So we got the data downloading here, and just taking a quick look at chat here, and we're waiting for the data to download. Take a quick look outside. Clear skies. We've got that cold air filtering down here in Texas. Cool air. We've got 74 degrees outside here, and there's the radar. So that cell there near Corpus Christi looks like that's pretty much shut down. And then across the border here in Texas, I'm bringing this up to higher tilts. I'm trying to look at the tops on this. We got a 50,000 foot storm there just southwest of Laredo. And we're looking at a distance here, maybe about 120 miles from the radar. So there's no chance we're going to be able to assess this for tornado potential. We're scanning this up at about 16,000 feet, but we can take a look at the velocity. We see a little bit of rotation here, maybe. Let me set the motion vector on that real quick. I'm going to go for 260 at 5 on that. And we're showing up there in the mid parts of the cloud, about 50 or 60 knots of rotation. So I think we've just got a little multi-cell there across the border, probably not doing very much. And where is that heading? Looks like it's stationary, probably back building and propagating this way. So that gives us kind of a stationary motion right there. I would bet anything there's probably some chasers right along this road trying to get a good view of the storm. I've seen that happen a few times in previous years. I think back in 2010 or 2011. Chasers right along the fence there waiting for the storm to emerge out there near Laredo. So anyway, I think that's about all I got for this evening, and I appreciate you watching the webcast. Got to get our music going here. And we will be back, I think, at the same time tomorrow. Take care and have a good rest of the evening.
Thank you.